Man, I am Dave, man. Will you... Come on. Open up the door, will you? I got the stuff with me. I think the cops saw me.
Who is it?
Come on, open up the door. It's Dave.
Who?
Dave.
Dave?
Right, man.
Dave's not here.
Oh.
Hello, everybody. This is Noway. As the title says, who is Noway? I thought it was time to let all of you know who is Noway. Who am I? Well, many that do know me know I am Dave. Just another Dave in the world. But how did I get to where I am today? What brought me to this point in time? When I was very young, it was a weird upbringing, to say the least. I do remember a time of my grandmother on my father's side seeing that we went to church and we were baptized. We were baptized Catholic, and we were always taken right to the Catholic Church. But in time, and as things change, our father, with the job for the electrical company, something seemed to change, and we weren't going to church as much. And when I was in the 3rd grade, we moved to another town where Dad was to run the whole district. Now, the problem is, as we all know, back many years ago, there was an alcohol problem in America, just like there is today. But it was more protected and hidden from society. My father was one of those. I remember everybody knew that come a holiday or some special occasion, they all knew where the party was going to be because it was at my parents' house. But they were prominent people in the community. So, as a young child, you get conflicting thoughts about you're learning of goodness through this, and you're hearing it in school, and there's this God thing, and yeah, that's something I remember vaguely. You know, I'm just a 9-10-year-old kid now, and I'm coming into my teenage years, and it's still conflicting. But why is it that when we move to this other town, we're no longer going to church? Church is something that we don't do anymore. And, well, Dad seems to be drinking a lot more, and we couldn't. Back in those days, you don't question nothing. But as time went on, I noticed that there was a conflict that I couldn't put my finger on between my father and I, because I was one that something all through, no matter even my heathenist years, something always drew me back to God. I never knew what it was. It was something that happened. It was something that was always there. It was something that I couldn't explain, and I didn't want to explain. So, but it was conflicting. Oh, you have to watch this, you have to watch that. This is what we watch. But it all seemed to be the same thing of what we know today is fake news. What they were saying did not fit what I was observing. I am a person that was given a gift a long time ago, probably by God, who knows. But one of my strengths in my life has always been the powers of observation, whatever that is. If it's surroundings and stuff that don't move and shouldn't be moved and you move it, I will notice it. It's just how I am. You say something, it's like it's logged. Later on, when it's relevant, it's there. I remember what you said. It's the powers of observation. So what these people were saying at this time did not fit what I could see happening in society. Dad had become a Freemason. Well, why is this welfare program good? And we're supposed to accept this, and we're so happy that this is coming into play because of the Vietnam War, so the people are accepting it. But then me, as a teenager, I am seeing my friends' families being broke up. I am seeing wives that are throwing their husbands out because while their husbands are working all week, they're having affairs and they're partying. So this program that came in, we knew it in the time as aid to families with dependent children. So as this progressed through the years, I was growing up, I was going out into the world, I was getting my first jobs, and now I am seeing something. I am seeing these taxes in my earnings every week. Then, as time goes on through life, this escalates. And now here I am, all these years later, and I see it for what it truly is. It is the social engineering of our own government. If we look at, I know it seems to be the easiest thing to do today, is to blame it on Democrats and liberal policy. Yes, you can. But at the same time, you must look at the social engineering that created it. When things were going good in cities like Detroit or LA, New York, many large metropolises around the country, there was not much of a diversity or division amongst the people. There were jobs, there was prosperity. You had your problem areas, but not like they are today. This social engineering is from our government. And it's into our schools. And it's gotten into our churches. It's gotten into every aspect of our lives. You take Detroit, 1.8 million people in 1950, and today is around 700,000. So 1.1 million people are gone out of this massive city where there was so much wealth. But what happened? You can blame it on Democrat policy. You can blame it on socialism. We need to blame it on the breakdown of our own society. When you start interjecting unions And unions go to bat against the company for the worker. Do you know that in 2008, at the time of the big collapse, all orchestrated and created, the auto industry, through its union negotiations and its union perks, when you have somebody justifying in their own self that $35, $40 an hour to sit in a small booth and push buttons to run a robot that actually builds the car is what I deserve. And yes, the big elaborate pensions and benefits packages that come along with all this, you eventually in time, like all companies, it's happened in the past, the overhead to run this company and to operate this company goes out of reach. So nobody says a word while everything's going good. But now you have such an overhead. Your product is being priced right out of the hands of the very consumers that you need to buy your product. How many people back 10 years ago, or okay, let's look at it today. How many people can truly afford today and have the job security to go right out and buy a $50,000 vehicle? $50,000 vehicle, ladies and gentlemen, is about 2/3, just under, I'd say 60% to 65% of what I bought my house for. My house today is worth double what I paid for it. Even after the collapse. But this is what the government creates. So now that the government doesn't care, because the people that are in the government are there to protect that kind of thing to go on, because who reaps the benefits from all the money generated? The politicians do. The propaganda media in the airtime that's being bought. Hollywood, in the investment into the movies to indoctrinate you into what seems okay, and then the demoralizing of society through what you are watching. Look at what is acceptable on TV today compared to when I remember the black and white TV. That's what we had. Black and white TV. Then color. Wow. Color TV. It was great. But where were we? We were locked. We were locked into a system that we can't control. They drive the cost of the product out of the hands of the consumers. So to bring it a few $1,000s down and to keep this system working, what happens? First and foremost, parts. The parts department is shipped to China. Open border trade is set up. And trade agreements with Canada. So in Detroit, well, the auto industry plucks itself up out of the USA, goes across the river and the lake and plunks back down in Canada. And now Canada has the business. And what do we have? Unemployment line, gangs, a degradation of your communities and society within that city. What do we see happening today in Los Angeles, San Francisco? We see that same degradation. I showed you in a few of my videos, I showed you street level Google Map footage of Los Angeles and tent cities. I want you that live in a city, go out, and when you go down to a certain street where you know that, there's warehouses or there's some stores and it's not places where you have storefronts, but it's the backs, it's the sides, it's parking lot. And think of tent cities. The street, the sidewalk lined with tents. There's an opening between the tents where there may be a parking lot that's all heavily fenced. This is the degradation of your society. And it's created not just by Democrats, but by Republicans as well. Because as long as they can convince and divide the people, look in Detroit, look in Chicago. The south side of Chicago is not much more than a demilitarized zone. Why? Because the very people in power that are promising these people a better life are the very ones creating the situation that create the life they have. But through social engineering, what are we prone to do? We get prone to blame another instead of looking at the big picture. They've done this very eloquently throughout the years and the decades. The degradation of our church. We see that today. Look at what we have. Supposedly leading people to Christ and a godly life. It's everywhere. It's rampant. Some of the best churches that I know of. I have a problem because of what I do here for you. I have a problem with being in these churches today because I have to stop looking at what they're doing wrong. I have to. It's easiest for me, I think, if I do not become the thorn in the side. I do not want to become a gossiper. I think it is best if I continue to bring you the truth of a world that needs to be saved. I want to just leave you all with this now of the whole purpose and the whole idea I have for saving what we can. We need the like-minded people that are like-minded in only 3 areas. If you believe in God or not. I want you to think of what if you could get a community that could hopefully in time grow to a larger community within your area. And you have to be vigilant in not totalitarian, tolerant, but still the people together as a collective in a kind way are not going to put up with riffraff. We are going to start to live with the principles, the values, and the morality standards set forth within the Bible. We all slip. We all make mistakes. We must hold ourselves accountable for what we do from here on out. Do not look for somebody else to blame when you know in your heart it's you. Sometimes, I'm not saying it's always. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. Understand when it is you. But if we think of a community where those three things, the morality, the principles, and the values of the Bible, are the standard of living. When somebody needs a helping hand, you help that person. When somebody needs or has extra, give as much as you receive. Be honest, be truthful. When you mess up, hold yourself accountable. Understand that it's you and you alone that can get you through to tomorrow. Pledge to live for you and your family and your responsibilities under the principles, the values, and the morals. And we can have a better world. That's the only goal. That's the only goal we've ever had. So until next time, ladies and gentlemen, this is Noway, out.